Okay, good afternoon, Prof. Nirmal. Thank you for accepting our invitation by IEEE Region 10 Newsletter Committee for this wonderful afternoon with us interview on your experience and so on. And it's good to have you here to share with us. I know that from your portfolio, I can see that you have been serving in many areas in IEEE. And I have been contributing a lot, yeah. And I reckon that you are the general chair as well for IEEE Region 10 TenCon 2021. So, would you mind to actually share with us how you actually began your journey as an IEEE member or volunteer?
Yeah. First off, thank you, Lau P. Is it? That's how you pronounce your name. So. Yeah, so I think you are currently a student member, I believe, in Sarawak subsection. Is that correct? So way back in 1989, it was last century. I was in my final year of undergraduate bachelor's of electrical engineering in a university called as Maharaja Sayarji University. This is in Baroda, Gujarat. So India, of course. And so I was doing my undergraduate and it was my final year of electrical engineering. So that is when, in 1989, is when the first IEEE student branch was generated in that university. So I was in the engineering. So I became a student member then, right? So, so this is going way back to 1989. The first student branch, the first IEEE, entity in the whole of the state of Gujarat. It's a big state there, and currently it is basically Gujarat section right now. So that's when I began, right? So 1989, and at that time, if you are to pay your student member fee, you had to pay in US dollars, and the memory which still is with me is. I had to go because it had to be in US dollars, right? So you can't get, it was in Indian rupees, and in 1989, I had to go to the Reserve Bank of India right, to get energy conversion, all the US dollar conversion and things like that. And so, yeah, I became a student member in 1989. That's when I started. Yeah. You're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, sorry. So would you also share with us your other portfolio since then, like volunteering experience with IEEE and
yep.
Yeah.
So once I started that, then I was not much active after when I was an undergraduate. And then for my master's, I was at Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. So this was somewhere around 1996. At that time, I just used to kind of refer to journals, all the journals for my research and things like that. So it was more like, getting information out. And then after a year of working in industry, academia, everything else and so on. So I left for the United States to Texas. So my IEEE was in Region 5. At that time, it was in Region 10. By now, you know what regions are. So I was in Texas. So Texas is basically Region 5. And I was doing my PhD at Texas A&M. By then, I had become a graduate student member. So, so I was there for about 4 years or so. So during that time, I also became involved with one particular society of IEEE, which is called as Power and Energy Society, because I'm in the electricity part. So I became very active in that because as a graduate student, you can go to conferences and things like that. And so that was my whole kind of stuff. Then in 2004, I moved to New Zealand, New Zealand, Auckland. So if you look back, I came from Region 10, I went to Region 5, and then I came back to Region 10 here. And then since then, I have been here for about 16 years now. And since then, I started giving back, in different roles and things like that. So I've been student branch counselor, whole bunch of activities around that. And within the section itself here, we have a section which is New Zealand North section. So different roles there. And also we have a council. So I became a council chair. And then we go up all the way to, Region 10. So I've been in Region 10 executive for about 6-7 years in different capacities, different committees and things like that. Currently, I'm the vice chair for professional activities. So that is my kind of role. In between, I've held a lot of conferences. I've run a little bit for elections, things like that. So I have one another CV, which is called as the IEEE CV. So you can check it out. If you Google it up, you can check it out. I've run for a couple of elections and you can see the whole list of stuff. So one of the things I have hosted here in Auckland is mostly conferences, a whole bunch of conferences I've held. The first Region 10, student, it used to be called as Gold, the Young Professional. So Gold event in 2011 was held in Auckland here. So that was my first conference where all the people came here. It was a blast. And since then, every couple of years, we have been having different meetings. And the last meeting, which we just completed last year, was 10Con. So I was a general chair for that. And so that's my kind of story around. And I think your interviewing is associated with 10Con. So we won the bid in 2019 because we wanted everyone to come here. This was the first time it was going to be held here in New Zealand. New Zealand has been part of IEEE since 1967, when IEEE was first formed, Region 10. But we have never hosted it because we are a small country, right? So 2020 was supposed to be when we were going to invite everyone and do those things. But then we had to quickly move to, blended maybe. And finally, it was fully online. So in December, we did it fully online. And so that's how I think, we still continued with the part, but we try to give a good digital experience and everything is archived and things like that. And we had a good day of, only for the Region 10 activities and things like that. So check it out on the website, 10con2021.com. You can see the rich set of activities which we did. It was technical as well. There's a whole bunch of papers and other online sessions. So I hope I've covered the stuff which I did up to now. So I've been active with students, with conferences, with professional activities, with leadership in general, and within Region 10, it's much more around professional activities. And so that has been my role so far.
I congratulate you and your team. Actually, you did very well for the 10Con 2021. I think this is totally a very new and refreshing experience when you start to use app and then you can use the app to attend different meetings. That is really interesting, and you can look back and see the the video recording and so on. I find it very interesting. And from time to time, I receive alerts. You can't run away because the app is on and the alerts keep popping up. Yeah, it's very engaging. Because like virtual meetings, you tend to very rely on the user. You go to click the Zoom link and you attend, right? It's very later on the interaction with the committee with the organizer. So it's really good. Yeah, good. It's really
no,
good.
And I'll tell you a story, because since I started from 1989. So 1989, I had electricity. Okay, so don't tell me that. In 1989, where I was studying, I had electricity. Computers had just come in. I used it during that time. I used to use in 1989. It used to be PDP-11. It used to be a mainframe computer where you had to code in other things. And personal computer just came in 1989. And so 10Con, when I did, I saw the integration of all these technologies. Electricity has become a platform. Computers has become a platform because I worked in microprocessors and things like that. And software has become a platform. Now, if electrical engineers, IEEE, cannot hold an event which is engaging, which is fully virtual and so on, no other association anywhere in the world can pull it off. You know what I'm saying? So, so that was a challenge for our committee. We told how to make it engaging. We'll make a lot of mistakes. That's not a problem. But how to keep it engaged, how to make sure that we still give the experience, how to make sure that the event can be managed across different time zones. Because if you look at Region 10, we are from Afghanistan on, the westernmost part. We are in Mongolia on the topmost part. We are in Japan and New Zealand. The time difference is all over the place. So you look at the program, that was our first attempt to try to do a blended kind of a way. So I hope we have got it almost right. And the other thing was, we tried to make sure that we kept all the registration fee and things like that, for the participants separately, as they would do. And for free part, we kind of gave free broadcast and things like that. So hopefully now we have got a good learning about how to still maintain the sanctity of a conference, but at the same time, give the value. And if we can't do it, which other society can do it, right? In the world, right? So while I was giving my keynote, I was thinking about my 30 years of, all these technologies, whatever you're talking about, is all part of IEEE, correct? So you've come a full circle now, right? And so that was fascinating. And also the delegates were giving good experiences. And you're absolutely right. The conferencing platform which we used, HOVA, I used that some 3 years ago when I was in the US once, that particular platform. That is a mixed conferencing platform. So we tried that. There are still a little bit of issues with, the groups and people, the gamification thing didn't work out well. People trying to get a game and try to do those things. But that too happens even in a conference, correct? You go and meet somewhere, some of you talk other things in life. You're not going to talk about those things. So there is some aspect about that virtualization and the VR and all those things. But I'm pretty sure within the next 5 years, we are talking about metaverse now and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think we can get a full experiences within the next 5 years of conferencing, right? And Region 10. And also, we saved a lot of carbon miles. I'm from, the Power and Energy Society. So, climate change, we have to really look at carbon emissions and things like that. So if you were to benchmark a carbon friendly event, right, of course, you don't get that full experience of that. But, well, these are the things which are going to happen in the future, right, for specialist conference and things like that. So I think, so these are early indicators. And also it gave us another aspect was we were fully on lockdown mode for about, 3 months in Auckland. As you mentioned, the New Zealand North section was hosting it, and it is centered around New Zealand, Auckland. Auckland is the largest city here in New Zealand. And we are 2 universities. Most of the volunteers of TenCon you might have seen are from industry, academia, research. But most of them were around 2 major universities. We have, out of the 8 major universities, 2 are held here in Auckland, University of Auckland, where I am, and AUT, where the general chair, Professor Takeley, was there. And so you might have seen the technology and the volunteers. So we prepared for the last 3 months just online, that particular event, right? And so it was interesting that it was a carbon-friendly one. It was effective. It was clear. It is archived. Everything is done. Of course, I do agree that face-to-face experience is the best. But this was primarily around, the higher technology areas, right, which we are looking at future. And incidentally, if you look at the keynote of the presentation, the conference, it was IEEE Future Directions. We decided it 2 years ago, and we tried to look at what are the future directions. So I think that gave a good blend of, what future conferences are going to be, what future technologies are going to be, and so on and so forth. So generally, and thanks for covering from your team, love the conference itself. And it is glad to hear that you enjoyed that experience. And even though you didn't feel left out of that whole experience, you're part of the thing. You could attend different meetings, you could check out different people and things like that. And you could be in every section, right? At the click of a button, you could move. So yeah, so I agree. I've had a good experience. And the next conference is going to be in Hong Kong. If you remember, in some of the closing remarks, we have Dr. Paulina Chan. She is from Hong Kong section. So we invited her. She saw that. And so we could do all that, in Hong Kong time, New Zealand time, from Australia time. And you were there from, so we arranged most of those meetings during a friendlier time, which was New Zealand afternoon, 2:30 onwards, which would be kind of morning. And it played out okay for us. So we have passed on our learnings to the next committee. And maybe the future might be blended. I think, you could do a live event, physical location, and also have good, these conferencing platforms and things like that working behind. So hopefully we might be able to reach much more people, especially in our region, which has wide diversity. You know, it's huge, it's diverse, and it will be much more effective. So I hope some learnings could be got, and I hope you are capturing that as part of the TenCon 2021 experience, right? Yeah.
I will do that. Yeah. So actually, it's fascinating to see how you actually organize you and your team organizes during lockdown. And how to say? Actually, I think this is also a good initiative that you started and can pass on to the future conferences. Other than that, it actually encourage more participation worldwide, because there are a lot of countries, like when I was a student, there are certain conferences that I cannot afford to attend. You see, because it's too expensive. And well, we have internet, we have phone, but just we don't have the money to buy the air tickets, yeah, or maybe the accommodation. So with this, it's really good. Everyone can attend conference. You can choose the mode that you want it to be physical when you can afford, or you can choose a virtual mode that you still experience the same as you still. I think one of the feature in your app is like allowing people to network. You know, you can click to network with certain people. That is the interesting part. You know, that you still have it. Of course, you can talk more outside of the app after you get to know each other. Yeah, and just like today we can talk here because I get to know you through the TenCon conference. You see, so very good one. So, and also you share about your challenges. You know, yeah, despite the physical lockdown and so on. Yeah, so would you also share with us, how do you maintain, this kind of jealousness in serving IEEE after so many years, in different portfolios, and then, what are the motivations and motivators that make you continue to be passionate about your contribution, or your continuous service to IEEE? Yeah, this is something that will encourage the younger people and also more people to step up to serve. Yeah.
So, so one of the things I wanted to mention, it's my own personal story, right? So, because when I was growing up, we are conversing in a language which is my second language. Okay, English is not my first language, right? So, one of the reasons was I joined, and I did mention why I joined IEEE, was because of a student branch which was just starting in India, in Gujarat, in 1989. That is when technology was picking up, right? And so I joined for the technology, for the skill set at that point of time in my life, right? So networking and all those other aspects became later, right? Yeah, otherwise it will sound like advice, right? So to me, I'm not going to advise. I'm just going to say, hey, this is what I got. This is what I did. And if you want to be there, then I would encourage you to be part of IEEE rather than the other way around, because I can sell it in different manners. So I can tell you my experiences. So to me, after 30 years, IEEE is a professional home. Okay, that's the first message. So everyone who is listening to this broadcast, all of us, I'm pretty sure, must be living in a home, right? I'm pretty sure of that. Whatever that home might be, I don't know, right? Because there are different ways of living these days all over the world, right? So, but nevertheless, there is a home, there is a roof, there's everything else, there is interaction, there is relatives, family, immediate, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's one part of my life. My second part of my life is I have been in engineering, and hopefully I might have covered in my interview. I chose to be for IEEE because of the technology jump. Because as I mentioned, I started with mainframe and all those kind of stuff to what I am now, and I could not have learned all these things, all these different trades. People don't realize. People think I'm a power and energy society person, but it is the origin of IEEE, right? When it used to be Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineer. That's what brought me into the society. But this always has changed, right? And so if you want to bet yourself that in the next 30 years, your home is going to be the same, right? Your professional home is going, if you think it is going to be the same, you don't need to join IEEE, right? you can do whatever else in your life. Good luck to you. You should do that. But if you are going to be in any of those future directions, which I will talk about 10Con, I would strongly encourage you to pay your fees and join this. And if you are a student, I shared the story long time when in 1989, I had to pay my student fees, forget about paying dollars and all that kind of stuff, because at that time it was new to me, right? And thank God I did that, because I continued, and that is my passion today. It's not about the membership, and it's not about that. I can interact with about 450,000 IEEE engineers across the world, right? And that benefit you can't get, full of professionals, full of industry people, full of entrepreneurs. If you're thinking really about entrepreneurship, that is IEEE for you, because I've told you 3 technologies, which was startup at that point of time, but which has become platform now. And now we are going for integration of these new things. So if you are even an entrepreneur, you should be here, right? Because there is all these other technologies and these other technologies which are going to come. So I would simply state that if you are going to be in this business, and we would be jumping across other technologies, other disciplines, medicine, clean technologies for carbon emissions, medicine, within humans, also outside, Mars, transportation technologies. Who is going to make all these? These are going to be engineers, believe me, an engineering community associated with those other technologies, medicine, for example, living and things like that. To summarize shortly, I think IEEE is a professional home. That's the way I look at it. And therefore, if you want a professional home, you should start choosing IEEE and involve in any of the technology area which you are involved in. Just start with one. That's fine, right? Networking and all those other stuff is additional, because you have a home networking with your friends and so on. With your university, you might have university friends and things like that. But once you came into the professional world, or if you want to stay connected with the people who are there and who are doing exciting things, you would still be there. And I have a lot of my personal friends. I'm an introvert. People don't realize that. People think, oh, you speak quite a lot now. I learned my public speaking skills through IEEE, right? And I know it is a safe audience, because all of you are similar to my kind of, I know that, right? Because that's how engineers are. That's how IEEE engineers are. But this is a good place for being yourself, to learn what you don't know, and also for public speaking skills, digital networking, and also doing a bellwether of what the future is going to be. I already talked about metaverse. Right now, my research interests are in blockchain technologies. I've been following that for a long time. Decentralized finance. I'm looking at decentralized energy. You might not expect this from me. After 30 years, even though I'm in the IEEE Power and Energy Society, I'm interested with solar, blackouts, restoration, and electricity markets, and all those kind of stuff. But I do know when my robotic friends tells me, hey, this is the latest thing. Oh, I think, oh, can I apply it here? Can I apply it there? So if you think you can do everything, then you don't need to be part of that. But if you want to know, hey, what your friend is doing in this area, would I want to engage? So this is a good professional network. And this is one network I would strongly encourage any engineers now, not even electrical and electronic engineers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers. All these people are using our technologies, correct? And so we need to broaden that. And that's the stake for us, right? Going forward. It shouldn't be just about, it used to be electrical and electronic engineering. Now it is basically, we call it as IEEE. And increasingly, this would be part of humanity, right? Developing new technologies. The disciplines are all getting blended now, right? And we're going back to the basics. Mechanical has become mechatronics, bioelectronics. I don't know what it is going to be with neural link, which Elon Musk is saying. I don't know. Put electronics on your mouth. I'm going to talk through that part. You don't know where we are going to go in the next 10 years, right? And ethics. Ethics is going to be a very important thing. We never bothered about ethics previously because it was a huge thing, engineering and so on. But now we are talking about bioethics. We are talking about AI. We are talking about ethics. So technology ethics are going to come. That's going to be a huge thing, right? And who is going to develop that, right? And who's going to be saying, oh, is this engineering? Is this ethics? What we should do? And because as we interface with medical technologies, medical practitioners have their own ethics, which is called as bioethics. But now when that two interacts, then we need to look at that. Social ethics, right? Driving, right? So driving, okay, you are the human is in the loop. Now you remove human out of the loop. AI, ethics. So these things are coming. How do you transact? Blockchain, everything is free, as you exactly pointed out. I used to pay a lot of money for communicating. Right now, we are just doing it free. Broadcasting, printing, this is going to come as a recording, right? A professionally done recording. All this is free, right? So, but then there is other aspects to those things. So the world which you're going to go ahead is going to be much more not only about atoms, but informations, photons, new areas, and things like that. So I would strongly encourage every person, engineers, non-engineers, and things like that, to just watch out what IEEE is doing. Membership is just one part of it, and just get a taste for your part as a student, plus join at least one technical society. You should be technically proficient. That's just my kind of experience. Hope it is useful to you, all of you.
Yes, it is very useful. I agree with that. I started as a student member and then professional member and becoming senior member and so on. So it's a journey full of rewards, not just paying fees. We get support, from our local subsection to the section and even up to the region. And now this region also open a lot of activity funding and awards to all the members. And you can even go up to the next level where you have the HQ level where you get the recognition. Like the most recent one where you have the IEEE STEM Ambassador program that is actually also encouraging people to step into STEM, which is very, very good. So it's like a big restaurant offering various menus, from the junior level of student member up to the professional members, even fellows level. And right here, actually, in our subsection, we also do the activities with the school, the primary school and the secondary school, because that is where we start to instill the interest in the young people. And whether we like it or not, blended technology is our future. And
no, I fully agree.
Yes, and the ethics that you mentioned is very true, because in European countries, most of the AI technology has to go through certain review to meet the standard. It's not just like what you want to do, what you want to develop when you use it on people, on the community. So that's why I myself also participated in one of these AI ethics committee. So, well, I'm learning as a member. So it's good. I mean, when we have more technologies, we need to have supervision body, or we need to have accreditation body to make sure that all these so-called free solutions, or maybe easy solutions, actually does not harm our community. Correct? So
no, that is correct. And I just want to jump on here on one aspect which you mentioned about European society. So 10 years ago, this open publications came. So there's two parts, right? Open publications and things like that. That's one thing. And GDPR. This is on information security and things like that. So if GDPR had been installed in all the social media thing, we would not be experiencing the kind of fake news and all those. That's another thing which we have to know. Forget about AI. Even for the current thing, what news is the correct news? So we have our barometer as engineers. We understand. But our kids don't know, our parents don't know any of those things. And in the COVID, everyone has been into this one. We don't know what the long-term consequences of this are going to be, because 30 years ago, when I used to sit in front of my computer, people thought I was playing a game. I was not playing a game, I was coding. Now, 30 years now, if you ask your children, if you take your kids, oh, are you playing a game? They would say, oh, don't joke about it. Are you working? Because the work-life thing is all blended now, right? And now people have got aware of the good, the bad, and the ethics part of it. So who can do that? That was my thing. And I think IEEE, we are right in the middle of it. And I absolutely agree. These are some areas which we should be looking at, especially for the new students coming in. So, and as you rightly pointed out, all this fellowship class and things like that, we still have experienced people. And as you know, in IEEE, we still have life members and things like that. This is one of the society which keeps us excited. So you asked me why I stay excited, because, when I joined, the professor or whatever, they are still, some of them are still alive, right? And they are also in IEEE. So, so this continues, right? So you're absolutely right.
Thank you very much for your interesting sharing. Yeah, actually, you can talk very well. Yeah. So.
Oh no, I learned it too.
Yeah, and you are very enthusiastic about your job. This is, about your job, about your professional engagement, and this is very important. I hope sharing will actually enlighten more audience. When we do their sharing later. Do you have any other advice for the young people before we end the session? Yeah.
So for the young, one last advice. So I think follow your passion. When I started, I was confused in high school whether I should do medicine or engineering. This was my first dilemma when I was a teenager. I thought, oh, okay, I'll do engineering. I started in civil engineering. Very few people know that. At that time, civil was, I can build something. And then after 6 months, I got bored. And then I started into electrical and electronics engineering at that time. Sorry, I jumped into chemical engineering. Sorry, I thought I'll do chemical engineering, 6 months. And then I got bored, and then I jumped into electrical and electronics engineering. So it was just by a fluke of accident that I came into engineering. And you mentioned about STEM. I think it is much more than STEM. It is STEAM now, because I think we are in the university system. It is science, technology, engineering. A stands for arts. Arts is important. For me, English language, as I told you, English is my second language, but I loved English, right? And I have some role models in my family connections who have been journalists. So actually, journalism was my option then, and therefore I had to study languages, right? So I was interested in that as well at that point of time, and the moral of the story is I did not know where I was going when I was there. Right now, coming back, I'm glad I took all my options there. And going forward for you, choose whatever option you want to do. That's my guidance to young people. Follow your own dreams. It's not like we were all following in one path. We're following in multiple paths, just like me. Follow in any path you want to do. But at this point of time, if you are hearing this podcast or broadcast, you are definitely in engineering. That much I can guess. You might be an electrical and electronic engineering of some sort somewhere in the university. You've already made that path jump, and your journey next is going to be very, very interesting because you're learning the tricks of the trade. And believe me, you'll be going into areas which you have never imagined, right? So if you are here, just continue the ride. That's just my simple advice, giving from my example. Don't get distracted by any of the buzzwords or whatever it is. Just go by your own gut instinct. You like it, you don't like it, and then go. You will find a place, as Lau has explained. There's a whole bunch of options, world, which is all across. Pick up any one example in your country, in your region, in your section, or globally, right? And so that would be my last piece of advice. Whatever you're doing, just don't get worried about, hey, I'm this, is it of use? Don't do this input-output analysis. It doesn't work. We are in the world of AI and fuzzy logic and all those things, right? So you have to see the promise, right, of the organization. And IEEE is geared for that. IEEE is absolutely geared for that. It's the largest professional organizations I've done. I can't, so stick connected with it. And if you do other things in life, do touch base with your IEEE friends. Some of you will still be with IEEE. So that's just my last bit of kind of suggestion to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Nirmal, and it's wonderful to have you in this afternoon. I know it's your time around 5 o'clock, almost 6 o'clock in the almost evening. Right here in Malaysia, it's around 1 p.m. Thank you very much for your sharing today, and we hope to meet again, either virtually or physically, in the upcoming conferences or other meetings in Region 10 or even in other regions. Thank you very much.